All right, today we're going to decode a fundamental piece of the stock market puzzle. We're talking about why every single stock seems to have not one, but two prices.
So, have you ever looked up a stock quote? You've probably noticed something a little strange. You see two prices sitting right next to each other. And yeah, it's confusing at first. But believe it or not, this one little detail is the key to understanding how the entire market works. So, what's the real story behind these two numbers? Yeah, you'll see something just like this. So for our made-up stock here, explain. There's one price to buy it and a slightly different price to sell it. They're always close, but they're not identical. And nope, that's not a mistake. It's actually the very heartbeat of the market in action.
Okay, so to really get a handle on those two prices, you have to remember what the stock market really is. At its core, it's just that, a market. And just like any other market, it's all about the constant back and forth between two key players, buyers and sellers. I mean, think about it from the buyer's point of view, right? If you want to own a piece of a company, you're obviously looking for the best deal you can get. Your goal is super simple. Pay as little as possible to get that stock. It's just human nature. And then, of course, on the other side of that deal, you've got the sellers. Now, they already own the stock, and if they're going to let it go, you better believe they want to make the most profit they can. So their goal is the exact opposite of the buyers, get the absolute highest price possible.
Okay, so this brings us to our first official term, the bid price. This is all about the buyers. It's the highest price that any buyer out there right this second is willing to bid for a share. You can just think of it as the top offer on the table. And on the flip side, for the sellers, we have what's called the ask price. This is the lowest price any seller is willing to accept to part with their share. They are literally asking for this amount. It's basically the best deal you can get if you want to buy that stock right now. And just like that, the mystery is solved. See? Those two prices aren't random at all. They're just representing the live, competing tug of war between buyers and sellers. The bid is the highest offer to buy, and the ask is the lowest offer to sell. Simple as that.
But you might have noticed those two prices are almost never exactly the same. There's always a little gap in between them. So what do we call that gap? And more importantly, what does it tell us?
Well, that gap has a name, and it's called the bid-ask spread. And the math here is super simple. You just take the higher ask price and subtract the lower bid price. What's left over? That's the spread.
So for example, if sellers are asking $10.05 and buyers are bidding $10 even, the spread is just 5 cents. But don't let that fool you. That tiny 5-cent gap is where all the action happens.
Yeah, this quote really nails it. The spread isn't just empty space. It's the active negotiation zone. For a trade to actually go through, one of two things has to happen. Either a buyer has to raise their bid, or a seller has to lower their ask until they finally meet somewhere in that space.
Okay, so this is all great in theory, right? But how does a trade actually happen? Like, what happens when you, the investor, decide to click that buy button? How do you cross that spread and make a trade?
Well, it's actually pretty straightforward. When you decide you want to buy a stock right now, you typically place what's called a market order. What happens then is the system instantly goes out and finds the lowest seller's price available. That's the ask price, and boom, your trade is executed. So as the buyer in this scenario, you pay the higher number to get your shares immediately. Okay, so why does any of this actually matter to you? Well, it's because understanding the bid, the ask, and that spread is absolutely crucial. It reveals a small but very real hidden cost that's built into every single trade you ever make. All right, so let's wrap this up with the key takeaways. First off, you got to think of that spread as a transaction cost. If you bought a stock at the ask price and then immediately turned around and sold it at the bid price, you'd instantly lose the amount of the spread. Second, the size of the spread tells you something really important. A tiny or tight spread, that usually means a stock is super popular and easy to trade. A really wide spread, on the other hand, can mean it's a bit harder to trade. Honestly, the easiest way to think about it is like this. It's the market's fee for making the trade happen instantly.
So now, when you look at a stock quote, you're not just looking at one price anymore. You're seeing the entire marketplace in action. You get the bid, you get the ask, and you understand the cost of the spread. So the real question is, what will you do with this knowledge? How will this make you a smarter, more informed investor? Thanks for tuning in.